All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Time now to talk technology with a man who loves talking tech and more. It's Mitch Joel, everybody. Tech advisor, investor, author of CTRL ALT Delete. Hi, Mitch.
How's it going, Elias? Great to hear from you.
I'm doing well. Listen, Friday, SpaceX, Elon Musk's space company, space internet, and all that kind of stuff. The IPO, he becomes the world's first trillionaire. Have you hopped on the SpaceX rockets? What do you feel about our future space economy?
I'm really excited about this company in particular because of what this number does in relation to what they can do now. And in fact, if you actually just even look at the news today, it was announced that they acquired Cursor, which is one of the AI coding tools for several $1 billion. So again, what does that mean? It means he's got a lot of money to outbid others. And when I look at SpaceX, I don't look at it and go, Mars, and you're investing necessarily fully in space. I look at it as he is now very much on course to build the next Alphabet or Microsoft for the future with a much larger and longer tail. If you look at the numbers right now, I think their market cap today, because of the other pop that they have, which is close to 18% right now, they're already bigger from a market cap perspective than Microsoft, if you can believe it or not.
Mitch, Globe and Mail published an op-ed last week. This was the actual headline, since changed, by the way. Globe and Mail said it didn't meet their editorial standards at the end of the day. But here's what they still published. SpaceX IPO makes Elon Musk the first trillionaire. Here's how to properly hate him. That was the actual headline. They changed it. But I have to ask you, he's not a popular guy. I imagine him being a trillionaire won't make him more popular, regardless of how many millionaires and billionaires come out of the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan or other places that have invested in him. But I want your thoughts here, because I don't know if the level of distrust and hate for Elon Musk could derail his success.
Well, what's interesting in that is I think it's a tale of two cities. On one side, there is his public persona, which is, I think, what we're primarily talking about there. If you actually look at his professional persona, while this isn't a stellar number one manager in the world, it's not even close to being as quote unquote negative as we've seen from people like Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs, even more so in the past. And that didn't stop any consumer from purchasing those types of products. I think ultimately those are two different stories. So you can hate his politics and think he's a terrible human being. On the other side, the people work for him.
People have stopped themselves from buying Teslas because of Elon Musk, right?
It's changed, but I don't think we would sit here and say that we don't have an entirely new commercialized industry because of Tesla too. I mean, the greater story is still the greater story, that we would be nowhere near where we are with the penetration and viability of an electric vehicle that those
we wouldn't have them.
If it wasn't for Tesla.
We wouldn't have them. We
know that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so what do you think is going to happen here? Where is the money in putting stuff into space, the Starship, and loading that up and getting to the moon and getting to Mars? You see that trajectory?
So months ago, I had on my podcast, Thinking with Mitch Joel, this person who wrote this very interesting book called Space to Grow, Unlocking the Final Economic Frontier. His name is Matthew Weinzierl. And he is actually not just a research associate at the National Bureau of Economic Research, but he's a professor at Harvard Business School. And it was really enlightening to me because, the way he framed it, which was kind of funny, is like right now it's basically like FedEx for space. They're just shipping stuff up to space, whether it's satellites and whatever. But you can imagine that once we start building that out, whether it is for things like data centers and energy transformation, whether it is things like mining, they're talking a lot about this helium-A on the moon, and all this sounds really kooky and crazy, but there are massive economies, not just here, but up there, because they will generate new types of work when we get beyond this sort of shipping business that we're in right now. But even the shipping business, as we see, is, it's quite a valuable business. So if I was looking at this company, I'd say two things. One is it's becoming clear to me with the acquisition of Cursor today in particular that they're just looking to be the next iterative generation of what a technology company does. I think space, if that's where you're focused on, like, we're not going to go to Mars, it's not worth $1 trillion and on, is probably a bad position to have. And I do think that in the economics of space, they will have some type of monopoly as they currently do. We just saw the Blue Origin spacecraft.
Yeah.
It exploded on the landing.
But Mitch, that's space travel, and like, knock on wood, we don't want anything to blow up, right? But
no, for sure.
The history of space travel is of course. But they could have stumbles and obstacles, and things could happen. Having said that, I hear people that say that one of the things we're not realizing here is that Starlink, right, the internet service that SpaceX owns. There's some people saying, wait a minute, we're missing the bigger picture that Starlink will become internet. They're 100%. The only company competing in internet, really competing in internet via satellite in space. That's doing a great job of it. And if the whole globe is covered with it, well, why would we have anything else, right? If they can get the cost down.
Yeah. And if he could either circumvent our current telecommunication providers, our internet providers with a better, faster, more accessible network. If you really look at the portfolio of companies, I would say yes. Collectively, these are all businesses that he's currently building to get some type of population on Mars, from transport to robots to automation to AI. But all of those tools will immediately serve humanity here as we are today. And all of those are excessively disruptive to a myriad of industries and technologies. So I look at this and go, pay attention if you're in. When people talk about, Amazon came out and it was X amount to buy a stock, and buying books online. Back then, that wasn't my take either. Back then, my take was this is going to be what retail might look like. This is going to be what media might look like. And here we are 15 years later. I believe that their timeline is going to be a lot faster, only because the world has changed so much, the technology has advanced so much, and it's getting very interesting.
Okay, I need to squeeze in the digital assistant that cannot be named. Apple's digital assistant. If I say it, I'm going to set off everyone's phones. So I need to ask you about the reset that Apple did last week at their Worldwide Developers Conference. They're using some tools coming from Gemini, but it's happening on the device. Is this truly a reset? Because it's been over a decade of people making fun of Apple's digital assistant. Is this truly a reset?
This is next level from the demos I've seen. I haven't gone ahead to download it from the developer's kit yet, but just watching the reviews and how it's unfolding, built on Apple Intelligence, which is their AI play. And essentially, if you've ever used the voice chat of ChatGPT, you will see what this can do. It is absolutely astounding. It's going to make all of those jokes, I think, go away, because suddenly you really will, if you think about Star Trek and how you say computer and you speak to it and it's got all these, that's what we're talking about. Its ability to see everything on the phone, and it is very privacy based, so you don't have to fear about that. But its ability to, I was looking at one instance where it would be able to, let's say, respond to emails or texts that you and I have, based historically off of the tone we use with each other and the context of it. So we're really talking about not a thing where you ask it the weather and it plays a song by Weather Report. It's a completely different system. And from what I've seen, to me, this is what I've been talking about for a long time, that we are going to move from typing with our little fingers and our thumbs to using voice and having a more natural, organic, interactive experience with our technology. And it seems like Apple might just be there with this new version of Siri, which you will have on your phones as of the fall in the next iOS update.
I tell you what, Mitch, voice talking, as I know as someone who does it for a living, talking takes a lot of energy. I'm not so convinced. And by the way, they made some changes here with the new version of Siri where you can interact with your history and type into Siri, because I think they also acknowledge you can't just talk for everything. And by the way, on Star Trek, how many times did that computer say, unable to comply? All the time.
I can't wait for it to come out and get your reaction. I do think there are moments where we want to type privacy, but I think we are underestimating how often many of us will use voice to text in terms of texting a friend or writing an email. And that's nothing compared to the tools and accessibility you'll have here.
Mitch, keep it real. Come back soon, okay?
Thanks, Elias.
That's a tech advisor, investor, and host of the what's the podcast? Thinking with Mitch Joel? Host of the podcast, Thinking with Mitch Joel. We'll catch him real soon.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
and more. All your decade-defining favorites, all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.